The Browns, they're putrid. They're the worst team in the NFL.
The season, the 2024 season is over.
Lamar Jackson can't win the playoffs. He'll win a third MVP, though, so that's great.
Drew Sample is the most important piece of the Bengals offense next year.
Go Joe Burrow. He deserves to be MVP. I wish he was the Browns quarterback. Kind of mean that.
If you're looking for the most reactionary, silly, and unserious show on the internet, then you're home. Live from Hamilton, Ohio, it's Off the Bench by Chatterbox Sports on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Hello, and good morning on this wonderful Thursday morning. It's Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. I'm Reed Mouse filling in for Justin Kenner. Today we have a good show for you. We'll get to my monologue in just a moment, but I came in a little more chipper today. I don't know if it had something to do with the game, the baseball game yesterday, but I don't know. Shaved the mustache, Cubs win. I don't know. Jacob, how are you on this lovely Thursday morning?
I didn't even know there was a game last night, so it's crazy you mentioned that.
It's funny because I feel like my record going to the stadium when it goes to Cubs-Reds games is, well below 500. We're talking in the 300s. And I first two nights, locked in all the way. Yesterday I played my baseball game, just getting the push notifications. I'm just like, wow, this is a fun little game. Glad I'm not watching. Jimbo.
Morning.
Rocking the Notre Dame Rope hat.
Yeah, Notre Dame rope hat. You like it?
That's sharp. Is that 47 brand?
Yeah,
you look good.
Yeah, free ads all day.
Thanks.
Why not?
And you've also got a golden ticket sweatshirt. Explain
sweatshirt.
that.
It's my podcast at school that I do with two student athletes at Notre Dame, and we had some hoodies made a while back last semester. So we're looking forward to getting back into it this semester. We got some good interviews planned, I would say.
Where can they find that?
Spotify, Apple, YouTube, pretty much anywhere.
Well, I know our fan base are diehard Notre Dame athletic fans. So
yeah.
More so, they love Jimmy Collins. So they're gonna. Did you make that logo yourself, or did you have somebody?
My younger brother actually made it.
Your younger brother.
Yeah.
That's that Culver education. Something that unfortunately
I didn't have. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
Sore
I like
subject,
rubbing that in
yeah.
sometimes. I think I laid it on pretty thick. The memorial.
Oh, yeah.
The memorial.
Oh, yeah.
They were playing golf, and I was like, "You didn't get it. Your parents don't love you."
Like 5 times.
The Coors Lights were flowing. Casey, nice seeing you here today. You still have a mustache. I thought we were shaving. You told me you were shaving yours, so I got to shave mine.
I don't remember saying that. I'm going to keep this because this has been very good luck for the Reds, so I like it.
It has been good
It also
luck.
makes me look good.
They
And then when I put this on, I look like
You don't need the mustache to look good,
Do it.
Casey.
Put them on.
Oh. Welcome to the danger zone, am I right?
Now, all right, we did so well role playing the last time we tried to role play. All right, now you're a cop, a highway patrolman. You pull me over. Come on.
Okay.
Get into
all
character.
right.
Ready?
All
You
right.
pull me over.
License and registration, sir.
I don't. Yeah, that doesn't fear me. That doesn't strike fear of me at all. That was terrible. Get those aviators off. All right, let's break into this show. We got a fun one for you today. We're going to talk about the game yesterday and kind of my opinions on the Reds, which I know maybe not well reciprocated here amongst the chat. Later on, we're going to do a news segment, and we're going to call it Good for Business, and essentially what that is we're going to talk about some hypothetical storylines as we kind of go into the fall. We're kind of on the precipice of breaking from summer to fall, and what would be good for business here at Chatterbox Sports? Like, what storylines in Cincinnati would be good for us? We're going to do that. We're also going to talk a little bit about, the fact that the NFL starts tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about the Olympics, which are absolutely in full swing. A fun show for you guys. But let's break on down. And here's the thing. A couple days ago when I hosted, I kind of went into this long segment about David Bell. And I'm not going to do that again, at least not in the same breath that I did a couple days ago. Because it's tired. It's been done on this show. It's been done all throughout social media. The David Bell deserves to be fired. I don't know. What do managers do? All of that, yada, yada, yada. I get it. It's tired. But I want to say this. And I had this kind of revelation about yesterday as I was happy. The Cubs win a game against Cincinnati. But it's kind of been a recurring thing. And I'll reiterate my point that I believe that managers are undervalued by analytical community, analytical baseball, and the fact that I still think that having a leader can create a sort of personality to your team. A way that they conduct their business is brought on by your leader. I brought it up when I said a few days ago, and pretty much every time that I talk about this, every baseball team that I ever played for, and once again, never played for a professional baseball team. Maybe it's a completely different vibe. I assume it is. But I will hold the idea that the team takes the personality of the manager. They go about the business the same way the manager does. And there's a few things that I think that maybe the personality, the way they conduct business kind of bleeds into how they actually play. One of those being, unfortunately, one-run games. And I know that that's the big thing that we always look at. You can't predict how a team does based on one-run games. The Miami Marlins made the postseason last year because they had an incredible run in one-run games. The Reds are 9-20 in one-run games this year. They go 500 in those 29 games. They are sitting above 500. They're sitting well in the thick of the playoff race, although I don't think they're too far behind the playoff race, the wild card race. What about in getaway days? What about the final game of the season or the series? How do the Reds play then? Well, they're 11-24. 11-24. Once again, you take to get a 500 record, and this team is well looking at a playoff berth. Okay, what are some other things that are an indictment on the way that a manager bestows his personality, about the way that they play baseball, and it's mental mistakes, errors, base running errors. The Reds are have the fifth most errors in Major League Baseball. Teams ahead of them, the White Sox, the Marlins. Not too hard to realize those teams don't play winning baseball. And then we always get up in arms, it seems like once every week, about some terrible base running error. So you got to ask yourself, what is David Bell asking of his team? Is he pushing, this mold of excellence? Is he pushing what this team should be playing? Are they pushing good baseball? And I don't know. I don't know what he expects from his team in the final game of a series. I don't know what he expects from his team when you're facing, you're throwing one of your best arms, Nick Lodolo, against a guy with a 6.7 ERA that honestly would be DFA'd on any competing team in Kyle Hendricks. What do you expect is a 10-run loss? I don't know what David Bell expects from his team, but I know one thing, one expectation, and that's that Cincinnati Reds fans expect more. They expect better in those close games. They expect better, cleaner baseball. Not as many errors, not as many base running mistakes. They expect that on the final game of the series, they're not looking ahead and they take care of business in the final game of that series. That's what the expectation should be. That's what it is for the fans. I just don't know why it doesn't bleed into the team. I don't know why it seems like the wheels keep running. This team, for all intents and purposes, has played good baseball in every month but one. And they're still paying for the sins of May. In fact, I think they've got an over 500 record in every month but May. But it's the things that, fifth most errors in baseball. An 11-24 record in the final game of a series. 9-20 in one-run games. That just can't be accepted. It can't. Shouldn't be. It's not what's expected amongst the teams that think they're contenders. And maybe you could say, hey, this team has great ball players, or doesn't have great ball players, and that's why it is what it is. But that just seems lazy. And I just don't know why we're on the third iteration of David Bell's team and we're still expecting these things. Why we're still settling for slow starts. Why we're still settling for, the miscues in the field, the miscues on the base paths. And I don't know how you can settle for a 10-run loss against a team who has won less than 10 games against left-handed pitching all year and throwing their worst starting pitcher, like happened yesterday. Sometimes that happens, and you don't want to blow it all up because of one game, but it just seems to be a repeating thing. And like I said, I wasn't going to do the whole David Bell gets fired, but I feel like I've bled into that territory once again. It just is frustrating. It has to be. And this city, I don't know. I feel like they just expect more from their ball club. Jacob, as I turn to you, does it become... do you think it's a problem the way that they're playing in the final game of the series? 11-24 in that final game of the series seems to be a problem.
Yeah, at some point, and this is why I've switched on my David Bell stance over the last week or so. At some point, the stats of what the manager can control, regardless of whether you think they manage from a laptop or an iPad or not, base running and the want to of the team on getaway days and other intricate little details where the manager's going to have to make decisions with the bullpen and the lineup and everything like that. The Reds struggle in all of those areas. And at some point, you can't just put that on injuries. You have to know what you have on the roster and how to utilize those pieces when you're 100-plus games into the season to remain competitive, at least to some degree. And David Bell simply hasn't done that. I mean, the team looks completely inept most of the time on the last game of the series. I mean, last night was at night, but most of the times in those afternoon getaway days, we completely punt those games. And it seems like last night, it being at night didn't change that. The team, I mean, obviously, Lodolo struggled, which no one really expected to see. He's struggled now for a couple starts in a row, but the lineup really didn't show out except for Fraley, who ended up hitting a home run to cut the lead in half. And that was really the only offense for the Reds. I mean, Kyle Hendricks with a 7 ERA had a no-hitter for the first 3 or 4 innings of that game, which is just insane. So at some point, it does fall on the manager, as long as I wanted to defend David Bell. And it wasn't even defending David Bell. It was just recognizing that I think he was pretty low on the totem pole of reasons why the Reds were struggling this year.
Sure.
But at some point, you have to make a change. And whether it's in this season, which I still think is unlikely just because of the way the Reds operate, or after the season, I would be shocked if David Bell was back next year as the manager. But yesterday, we saw the Reds promote basically everyone in their front office. So I don't know why we would necessarily expect a change, because they certainly seem happy with how everything's going.
Good old pat on the back for the entire front office.
Yeah, Phil Castellini, Employee of the Year for 15th year in a row. So congratulations to him.
Good old pat on the back.
Yeah.
It's like I said before, leadership at the end of it is what you accept. It's if you accept small things to kind of mount, if you accept small mistakes, like at any place, whether it be, a local organization that you help run in your spare time, whether it be you're the boss of a corporation or you're the boss of a group of people, if you are a 7th grade basketball coach, what you allow is what your team ultimately becomes. And what has seemingly become of this Cincinnati Reds team is a team that on the final game of the series, they just no-show. Don't even come to the ballpark. They'll just take their L, get on the plane, and go wherever they're supposed to go next. And I just don't know where else you put the blame. I don't know where else you look to and say, this is unacceptable. Something has to change. I don't know how you keep rolling out the same thing over and over again and expect nothing to change or something to change. I just don't know. Jimbo, if you're Detroit Tigers, seemingly every single series went out to that final game, rubber match, chance for a sweep or a chance just to get one, and they no-show.
Yeah, I mean, I would be frustrated, obviously, because being around a 500, within that 500 range ball club, knowing that you're more than likely going to lose every single last game of the series, that means you have to almost play perfectly the first 2 to have a chance to win the series at all. And if you're not winning series, you're not going to be a winning team. So just kind of punting it almost feels like they're punting on the last game of the series at this point. And you're getting down in the home stretch where every single series now is almost a playoff series, because the more games you lose, you're going to fall out, and there's only 50-ish games left in the season. So I would be frustrated. I think Reds fans should be frustrated. I think I'm kind of done defending David Bell, similar to what Jacob said. I think throughout the season, I acknowledged the situation that David Bell was put into this season with all the injuries early in the season was tough, and I obviously don't think that's his fault. You can't really blame anyone for getting hurt unless you're Casey. And
what a shot.
That was great.
So I thought that David Bell was dealt an unfair hand of cards at the beginning of this season. But as the season goes along and they keep performing like this at the end of series and almost lazy baseball to close out an important series against a rival, I think that, your patience kind of will thin naturally with the manager. And I think really they have to look to fire him at this point, just because if they want to right the ship, I think someone has to take the blame, and it's going to be him.
Yeah, I did like we said before. If you are the head of an organization, the team's not performing up to standard, then it falls on your hat. Listen, if you played a baseball game, you play 9 innings. You don't play 6. If your team is the best team in the first 6 innings, it doesn't matter if you're the worst in the final 3. If I showed up to work here at Chatterbox every single day and, on Friday, I just, Thursday, Friday, who cares? I worked hard Monday through Wednesday. If I showed up here, worked hard for 9 to 3, 2 hours left, who cares? Just wasting away. I want to be a very good employee. And I don't know how you look at this team and continue to say, man, I'm okay. I'm okay with what's happening in the final game of the series. 11-24. Casey, that's unacceptable.
I agree. It's unacceptable. Just about any professional sports team, you want them to be killers, and it would seem like you'd want them to finish and close out games, finish and close out series. Mm-hmm. They don't do that. 124 is wild. We talk about how often they win the first game but end up losing series. Well, that's a big reason why. They just don't know how to close out games, close out series. So much to the sentiment of everyone in this room, we've already said it time and time again, we're kind of done defending David Bell. There's no reason that you should be defending him. There's no good reason other than saying that he's in a position where it doesn't matter. Like that to me just doesn't make sense. Like, you got to change it up somehow. You got to get better chemistry, you got to get better morale in the locker room to where they're fighting. And I don't feel like they're fighting for anything right now.
That's a good point.
They're just kind of out there. They're just kind of going through the motions of the season, right? Like, you're barely below 500. Like, I don't know. It's just mediocrity.
When a team dominates the first game of the series like the Cincinnati Reds do, and then vice versa, are terrible in the final game of the series, that is just quite literally that. Right. Lack of motivation going into the final game.
Yeah.
Nothing more than that. And I want to point something out in this room, and maybe it's because we don't have Elliot in here. Maybe it's because I know Kirby's pretty loud, and I even am reading the chat. When we would bring up fire David Bell months ago, and maybe it's just because of the fact that, we've talked about it so often, that it's becoming a lot more somber when we talk about it. It's not as fiery from the other side of people that want to keep him around. It's more of it's just a shrug of the shoulders. It's getting a lot more quiet when we talk about these things. It's not as loud. It's not as vitriol. There's not as hard opinions because we see what continued to happen and we see what is expected. In non-first game or non-final games of the series, this Reds team's 41-32. 9 games over. 11-24 in the final game of a series. Unacceptable. We're going to talk more Reds when we come back. We're going to step away for a moment. You're listening to 1410 Wing AM. And we are back here on Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Reed Mouse filling in for Justin Kinner. For someone who got kicked off this show, I'm certainly on here a lot.
You sure are.
It's almost like I work on the other side of the wall here in the studio, and then whenever someone needs a breather, they're just like, hey, Reed, will you? It's almost like I wasn't kicked off at all.
No, it's almost like you weren't.
It's almost like I wasn't, but I think I was. I pretty clearly was, because, I don't know if you saw, but the second Kinner came in, I was off the show. So
just connect the dots.
You do your own research. You do your own research. I do mine.
The facts don't care about your feelings.
That's right. All the political things, but no one knows my politics. So I wanted to talk one more segment about the Reds, and it's hard to come in here and talk about the Reds on a game like yesterday because what else is there to say? Sometimes you just get your teeth raked in. I've already did that the point that they are 11-24 in those final games of series. They are 9-20 in one-run games. Both of those things are kind of like a shrug. They're kind of, man, you can't expect this to happen. It just seems like an anomaly. But at the same point, it's consistently happening, so maybe it's not an anomaly. Maybe it is just simply that this team in those close games, in those final games of series, aren't good enough, aren't expected enough of. I will ask this to Jacob. The Reds in every month this year have a winning record minus May, which was abysmal, 9-18 in those 27 games. Is that frustrating to realize as a Reds fan?
Yeah, it's tough because it's the exact opposite as last year. They were under 500 in every month except for June when they went on the 12-game win streak. So it's the exact opposite, and you've seen this team is capable of winning games. And you know, people point to the run differential and the Pythagorean whatever else that everyone uses, and this team is better, much better on paper than the record that we see in the standings, which is frustrating because you want to point to all the injuries and all the other things you can blame for the team underperforming, but at the end of the day, it's been a 2-week stretch that's kept this team out of the playoffs and out of really probably buying at the trade deadline. If you wouldn't have went 1-11 in a 12-game stretch, you're right in the mix for that third wildcard spot, if not in it. So, it's really frustrating when you boil it down to that much because it's easy to look at this season as a whole and just say it's a lost season and you're going to move on to 2025. When you break it down to every month, and we've had 1 month out of the season that we've been below 500, and we are below 500 and on the season, it's incredibly frustrating because it just proves that we're not as far away as we think.
It's this season. It's interesting because it feels like there are a lot more growing pains than you're actually seeing on the field. It feels like this team, because of that May, hasn't really competed ever since that month, ever since that 2-week stretch that you bring up. And it's also a reminder of, though it's a 162-game season, that oftentimes it's a game, 2 games, it's a week, it's a series that is the difference maker, that every game does in fact matter. So for the people that are so gung-ho at the beginning of the year and everything's the end of the world or we're the greatest team ever, and people are reminded, hey, you're not made for 162. You're right there, but also like every game does matter in a 162-game season. But it's frustrating because if you look at all those metrics, if you look at, the reason that run differential is talked about so much is because typically the teams that outscore the opponents more often than not are pretty good. Everyone gets worked up on the analytics. All the analytics are trying to do are 2 things: score runs and prevent them, because that's the way the game is played. Who can score more runs? So when you look at run differential, if you look at all these things, the Reds should be in a better spot than they are. It is that 2-week period that has held them back. This team, for as much as we in Cincinnati want to just kind of beat them down because you keep seeing the players that go out there. You keep seeing, all the different tries, the Mike Fords, the Austin Slaters. Now it's Ty France of, hey, we're just going to see what happens, see what sticks. This team has played pretty competitive ball for a large portion. It's been that month, that 2-week period, that 9-18 May. It's been those final games of the series. It's been the one-run games. All those things kind of stockpile. Casey, as someone new to baseball, does it feel a little tiresome, everything that has been talked about this year, and then you look at just 1 month, 2-week stretch, that 9-18 May, that 1-11 and a 12-game stretch, and say, man, is that what the difference is between this team making a postseason and having a really fun late September, early October, and just kind of having a meh season?
I mean, I think the tired part isn't necessarily how they performed. I think it all started way before the season even started with all the injuries and being held back that way, because that just gave us an excuse to how we're performing now. And it's like, oh, we were never competing for this year anyways. We were always competing for 2025, 2026. And that to me is tired, because that's not what the conversation was before the injuries or before the suspensions. It was maybe there's a chance that we can actually compete in the NL Central. Maybe there's a chance that we could take the number 1 spot in the NL Central and make a push for the World Series. That was the conversation that we were having, March? So I feel like for me, just having that one bad month in May, like so early on in the season, is just really tired because like you've had now 2 months and it's just been 500 baseball. It's just like there's no urgency. We're getting down to the final couple months. And I'm looking at the schedule. They still have a chance, right? They're only a couple games back from 500. They're only 5.5 games back from having a wild card spot. And they play teams that are competing for that wild card. They play the Giants. They play the St. Louis Cardinals. They play Pittsburgh Pirates. They have a chance to still do some damage here, some noise. I just feel like we've already said it time and time again, the inconsistencies, the motivation, it's just not there. We're not seeing the urgency. And I feel like at this point in the year, with the amount of games we have left, you would think that there would be more urgency. And I think that's what's tired.
What's interesting now is you look at the wild card standings, and we've talked about how there's a kind of a traffic jam of sorts for those final 2 spots. Well, you look at it today, and there's 3 spots open. The Braves are only a game into the playoffs right now. They're the top wild card team. They're not playing good baseball right now. And you look at the Reds, and once again, we're looking at run differential. They are one of 2 teams that have a positive run differential that aren't currently in the postseason, them and the Mets. To where all it takes is similar to how a couple good weeks kind of kill your vibe of this season. Well, it takes a couple good weeks, and you're right back in the thick of things. You're right back there. And I know that you don't want to give yourself false hope. I know you don't want to kind of get overly excited for something that is incredibly unlikely because at the current moment, the Reds are 5.5 games out. They're currently behind 5 teams for that final wild card spot. But as I mentioned, there are 3 spots that are open for like 9 teams. So you don't want to get too excited for it all. But you also don't want to give it up. You also don't want to just act like it's impossible because what's the point? You still got 2 months left to play. And if you're thinking about this team like, hey, they've got nothing to do. They've got no shot. Maybe they don't, but you don't want to. That's no way to fan. That's no way to look at your favorite team. All it takes is 2 weeks to get back in this thing. And Jimmy, as we go into these final 2 months, where do you think Reds fans should hold their kind of belief into this team? Do you think it should be hey, let's keep fighting. Let's fight for a few more weeks, another month. Let's see where we can be at the end of August? Or it's kind of they play well. Kind of we'll take a step back and think of, we'll recess things if things start getting hot.
Yeah, I think it's tough. I'm looking at the schedule right now, and the schedule is honestly tougher than I thought. They play a lot of teams who are kind of hovering around the wild card in both the AL and the NL, and along with some division leaders in Houston and Milwaukee a couple times. So I think the schedule's tough enough to the point where I would enjoy the rest of the season and hope that you see kind of development from guys that you want on the team for the future. And if they play well, and you can get excited about it and hope that they make a push. I'd say there's no point in just not caring, because that's not that's not being a fan, not caring. I mean, obviously if you're turning on the game every day, you care a little bit. So I think the schedule is tough enough where I would kind of temper expectations of, we can make up these 5.5 games, but why not enjoy it? I mean, who knows? Last year they went on a 12-game winning streak, so.
It's Jim M just put a really 12-game winning streak. We haven't done that in a while. Do we have the win streak counter? Where's it at?
I don't think we got it. That thing's been retired.
What's Noelve Marte's chase of DiMaggio at?
He's close. He's inching his way there.
Inching his way there.
I think he might be getting close to 56 hits on the year sometime soon, so that's good.
Jim M put in, I am more disappointed that Phil and Krall got a promotion for their failure to put a winner on the field. How can that not tell fans we are okay with losing, so don't complain statement? I think that's fair.
I think it's fair.
I think that's a fair thing. Like a pat on the back. Pat on your back for what? Being an okay team for now 5 years? Sure, it's much better than they were the 5 years prior. But is that okay? Is that where this is at? Maybe it's a nothing burger, these promotions. No one expected there to be significant changes in the front office. No one expected Nick Kroll to get fired or anything like that. But it seems weird to say, like, hey, everyone's getting a promotion, which incites, hey, we think we're doing a good job. Doing a good job staying 81, 82 games, 80 games, 79 games, 83 games. Like, we're okay with that, where the Reds have been now for 5 years, other than the 100-loss season, the first in, I think, franchise history, or the second in franchise history. That's okay? I don't know. Colin Will also put in a really good chat, too. It's hard to get excited for inconsistent play. That's so true.
Yes.
It's hard to get excited when you know, hey, we're going to win 2 games, lose the third. It's hard to know, like, hey, we're playing really well, but then there'll just be a no-show. It's hard to get excited for that. There's no doubt about that. And that's where I ask the question once again, who does that fall on? Inconsistent play, one-run games, final games of the series, no-shows, all these things. It seems pretty easy, at least on the short. If you started listing who does this fall on, there's one name that keeps going at the top of that list. May not be the number one reason, but he's certainly at the top of the list of a lot of things. And as I said months ago, and I don't want to keep doing the fire David Bell thing, but it seems like I will when I host this show, is that if we keep asking ourselves, we keep coming in this room, this studio here in beautiful Hamilton, Ohio, in downtown area, we keep going in here and talking about a decision that was made yesterday. We keep talking about something that the Reds do that seemingly falls on the managerial status, then there's got to be something that changes there. Got to be. Inconsistency. No lack of urgency, or a lack of urgency in the final game of a series. And then the one-run games, all of it. It just seems tired. And maybe this conversation's tired, so maybe we'll change it up. All right, we're going to do a new segment when we come back. It's going to be called What's Good for Business? Simply put, if we look back in 2 months, ratings are skyrocketing. Chatterbox is doing great. What's going on? What would cause that? What would be good for business? That and more when we come back on 1410 Wing AM Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. And we are back here on Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Thank you so much for tuning in every single day. Kenner will be back tomorrow. Give us a like, subscribe for those watching on YouTube, for those listening on radio. I'm Reed Mouse, Jacob Tissett, Jimmy Collins, Casey McAllister in the room. We've got a fun show for you guys today. We just did 2 segments on the Cincinnati Reds. They'll be back in action tomorrow against the San Francisco Giants, another team kind of in that wild. The San Francisco Giants are almost in the exact same spot as the Cincinnati Reds, to where there were expectations. They made moves in the offseason, and what they do, they kind of pushed away those moves that they made in the offseason. That's what the Reds did with Frankie Montas. That's what they thought they were going to do with Nick Martinez, and it was never really rumors about Jeimer Candelario, although fans were speculating that maybe Candelario should go too. So, I mean, it's just those teams that, hey, if they play well for 2 weeks, this is a more interesting August and September, but we'll see. So the question I asked is, what's good for business? What would be fantastic for business? What's a storyline? What's a hypothetical? You can kind of see it through the tea leaves, and if this happens, if this thing trends this way, for the Bengals, for the Reds, for the city of Cincinnati, Xavier Musketeers, UC Bearcats football, anything you want to do here in Cincinnati that we talk about, FC Cincinnati, maybe we don't talk about them enough. What could happen in this city that would be good for business? That'd be good for us, that we'd be excited about every single day. People would be tuning in. We'd be excited with new topics to bring up. And before I give my opinion, I'd like to hear from you guys. So I'm going to open it up. Anyone want to lead off the what's good for business? Casey, you were bragging about how many you had.
I do have quite a few.
You were.
What'd be good for business, Casey?
I'll save some of the best for you guys and maybe for last for me if you don't say them. So I'm going to say an easy one, a very obvious one, and that's for FC to win a championship. Obviously, them winning a championship here in the next couple months would do wonders for the city. It would break the curse. We'd finally have a championship here in Cincinnati. And all the FC fans that are just tired of hiding behind the walls, the shadows, being beat down by all the other professional sports teams here in Cincinnati could finally come out and say, yeah, we're proud to be FC fans. So that would be really great for business. The soccer community would love that. That's my first one of the day.
Okay. So let's dissect this a little bit. Let's get out the scalpel and let's just make a little incision on this one.
Let's break it down.
And FC Cincinnati winning a championship would be good for business. I'm from Cincinnati. In my lifetime, born in 1996, that makes me 28 years old for those very, very quick at math. I have not seen the Cincinnati Bengals win a championship. I have not seen the Cincinnati Reds advance in the postseason. I have not seen the Xavier Musketeers make the Final Four, nor the Cincinnati Bearcats in basketball. They did make the Final Four in football.
You've seen FC advance in the postseason.
See, that's the thing is he didn't even know
I want this city to win a championship. Yes, that will give us something. It is good for business. I'll give this the stamp of approval. It is good for business in the same way that getting 5 new subscribers to CBox Plus is good for Chatterbox Sports. It is undoubtedly good for business. Yes, these are good things. We want the city. A parade going through Fountain Square is fantastic. That's what you want. In fact, if FC wins, I'm going to the parade.
Me too.
100%.
No question about it.
No question about it. And not even I'm not doing that in jest. I'd go down there because it's a chance to celebrate with common fans in your city, people that grew up in the same area, that take pride in the same, geographic location. Yeah, good for business. How good for business? That I don't know. I don't know.
The needle bumps a little bit to the right. So that's good. That's a positive. I've always said my first FC Cincinnati event was going to be the championship parade. So as soon as they win one, I'll get on the horse. Probably not go to any games, but I'll go to every championship parade for the next decade. How's that deal?
I guess that's a fair trade.
You were teeing us up to
Make fun of you.
No. We're not going to do that. Like I said, a
me.
championship parade would be great for this city. Yes, it's good for business. Yes, it'd give us something to talk about when it came around that time. Yeah, we'd have Tommy G on. We'd do all the fun things for FC. How much? That I don't know. So here's what I would say is good for business, and I'll give the easy one. I'll give the easy one before we break in to something. And the easy one is you ready for this? The Cincinnati Bengals start 6-0. We look at what the Cincinnati Bengals have done for the past few years, and what's the kind of gripe that I always go against. I just said it for the Reds. The Reds haven't started very hot in the past few years, and that gets a little tired. But the Bengals have undoubtedly started slow. I would argue if you gave me an opinion, hey, would you rather them finish strong or start strong? It's finish strong every single time, and that's what we've seen under Zach Taylor's regime. But you look at the way that the season starts, you're over touchdown favorites against the New England Patriots, who might be the worst team in the league. Hopefully you get a win there. You also, in that first 6-week stretch, you play the teams like the Carolina Panthers, not very good. The New York Giants, not very good. So you play 3 teams that might be the 3 worst teams in the NFL. Now, you also pair that with the 2-time Super Bowl champs, reigning Super Bowl champs, Kansas City Chiefs on week 2. Pair that with the number 1 seed from the AFC last year, Baltimore Ravens. That's at home. And also a team that wasn't very good last year, but have an exciting player in Jaden Daniels. And, it's kind of been a trendy pick. Hey, watch out for this Commanders team. But for the Cincinnati Bengals to buck the trend of the slow start, to buck the trend of man, this team doesn't play very well in September, and to look at them and say, hey, where we just wanted to be back in the conversation of contenders, we just wanted to be back in the conversation of, hey, don't forget about us. Hey, we can beat the Chiefs. Hey, we can beat the Ravens. And it's just like, hey, we could be the 1 seed. Hey, the AFC playoffs roll through Paycor Stadium. To be talking about that the second week of October, that's not good for business. That's phenomenal for business. That is incredible. People, it's become, I said it's the cult of personality of Joe Burrow. I've never seen a fan base flock to the Bengals like they have. A city flock to the Bengals like they have. That's how hungry this city was for a contender. And to get back into contention once again, to prove the naysayers to go, hey, this Bengals team, yeah, they're okay. Yeah, people are scared to put them as true contenders because, the Joe Burrow injury stuff. Yeah, because they start slow. But to start looking at, hey, this team could be the number 1 seed. Hey, this team beat the 2-time reigning champ Kansas City Chiefs. Hey, this team beat the number 1 seed from last year, the Baltimore Ravens, and took care of business against 4 teams that are supposed to be at the bottom of the NFL. That'd be good for business. Doesn't that get you kind of jacked up to think about a 6-0 Cincinnati Bengals?
Oh, yeah, and that goes perfectly into what I was going to say for the Bengals. You touched on it right there, but if the Bengals could somehow be the 1 seed, I think that's the perfect thing for business because I think you're looking at, certainly easier matchups, which is great for a deep run in the playoffs, but home playoff games would be phenomenal for this city. Mm-hmm. Both of these runs we went on, we've only had 1 home playoff game, but though both have been great, the Ravens and the Raiders were 2 phenomenal memories for Bengals fans everywhere. But going on the road to Buffalo, going on the road to Tennessee, going to Kansas City both years, you can't get the same oomph behind your team as a fan base that if you're at home. And certainly for Chatterbox, being able to do different things for home playoff games would be phenomenal. So being able to get the 1 seed or even the 2 seed and having 2 home playoff games instead of just the 1 would be so good for business.
So good for business. I would have empty wallet, but
zero money.
Be very good for business here at Chatterbox.
But you don't understand. It's good for business.
Good for business.
That's right.
Yeah.
The wallets get the pockets get
It's backed
fatted,
up.
because that's what happens here. In the first 6 weeks, they would also play 2 primetime games.
Right.
So that's also something. So in the first 6 weeks, they would
3
primetime games.
Well, Kansas City standalone.
4. It's at 4.
Yeah, but it'll be the only game on that channel.
Okay. Well.
If that's what you count as prime time?
Yeah, I mean, come on, man. We're talking Monday night, Sunday night, and Thursday.
Okay,
Those
fair.
are primetime games. Yes, 4:30. There'll be a lot of eyeballs. That might actually have the most eyeballs out of any game that the Bengals play. But they would play 2 of the best teams in the league, in the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. They would play 2 primetime games, and they'd also just get off the schneid in the other 2 games. So, yeah, 6-0 is good for business. Jimbo Collins. What's good for business?
I think there's something about like being a sports fan of a team that is kind of struggling for a long period of time where people kind of need to see like a run to really get back into it and believe again. And I think we saw it a couple years ago here with the Bengals when they made the Super Bowl. I think you saw it last year with the Lions in Detroit, how that really like kind of revived the city, revived the fan base who had been hungry for something for so long.
Created a defibrillator.
Yes. And I think of kind of the Reds similar in that thing. I think that in my time around Cincinnati, I feel like I can't quite tell if I think it's a baseball town, but I kind of
We're not doing that debate today.
No, I understand that. But I think something that would be really good for business here, especially at Chatterbox, is if the Reds these last 50 games get really hot and find a way to sneak in to the playoffs similar to the Phillies of 2 years ago and the Diamondbacks of last year, and are able to make a real run in the playoffs, because we've seen it happen in the National League playoffs the last 2 years. The last team in made the World Series, and I think if the Reds were able to sneak in, be that last team in, and make a run at a World Series berth, I think that would be something that would really revive a city.
Sorry, I always interrupt you. I'm sorry about that, Jimmy.
Fine.
But don't get it twisted. I think the thing that would be best for business is the Reds making it to the World Series, taking a playoff run, because we're not doing the debate if this is a baseball or football town, but there's no doubt that when the Reds are good, this city gets incredibly excited. And it doesn't even need to go that far. It doesn't need to be win the first playoff series. If this team can be within a couple games at the end of August, be within a game or two to where you're looking, hey, only 2 teams in front of us. We're 2 games out. We play a lot of Central Division, a lot of division opponents here in September. We could do this. Yeah, that'll get this excited around with the time that football's starting up. Man, this show would be cooking. Casey?
Yeah, I got another Reds kind of centralized, good for business one. Matt McClain coming back and just dominating.
Certainly.
I think that if they don't make it to the playoffs, yeah, that's a shame. But if he comes back and he dominates, you feel so good about this Reds team going into next year. And I know that's kind of tired, but it would be so good for business if you just knew that this Red team, this core, it's solid. You know it's solid. You're just a few pieces away. So for that, I think Matt McClain coming back, being like a 275 or 300 hitter for the remainder of the season would be phenomenal.
Just someone that you can circle, and he's already been penciled in as, the middle infield partner of Elly De La Cruz. But then to not only know that that's your future in the middle infield, but to feel overly confident about it, be like, hey, I'll put up our shortstop second base combo with anyone in Major League Baseball. Yes, Matt McClain coming back and being the player that he was last year, coming off an injury. Man, oh man, that'd get people excited.
Yeah, the fan base was somewhat kneecapped by expectations when Noelvi Marte came back. Everyone thought he was just going to drop in and be exactly what he was last year, and it certainly hasn't been the case. So to get one of those guys that you're super excited about and actually see something that you can build on in the future instead of just crossing your fingers and hoping, that's the best thing for fans. And when fans are happy, it's good for business.
All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we got some more. What's good for business? I've got a Bengals one that I don't think enough people are talking about. That and more when we come back on 1410 Wing AM Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We are back on Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We're doing a segment that we said, what's good for business? As we look to kind of bridge the gap between summer and fall. Some good ones have been brought up. Jimmy said, what if the Reds make a playoff? Not only make a playoff push, but make a push in the playoffs. I said, what if the Bengals just simply start 6-0 and kind of buck the trend that has been over the past few years of starting slow? The city gets so excited for Joe Burrow and the Bengals to play at the start of the year, and then it's just kind of at the beginning of it all. What happens if they turn that around? Casey has brought up, what if FCC wins the MLS? What if Matt McClain comes back and proves that the Reds have a middle of the infield that is a force to be reckoned with? Jacob, I don't think we've heard your what's good for business yet.
More player specific for the Reds. Obviously, I'm a little less confident that they can make a playoff push, so I was trying to find something else this season that could be good for business, and I think it's Elly breaking some records. If he could go 30-80, if he can cross those thresholds and make some real history going, 30-80 this year, home runs and stolen bases, I think that'd be phenomenal for business. It's always fun to talk about Elly. Everyone loves Elly. Everyone loves when we talk about Elly. And if he can go 30-80, what those numbers would be, the slash line and everything like that at the end of the season, it would be incredible. And it would certainly put him in the conversation for MVP. Not that he could win it, but that he could finish in the top 3 or 5. And that'd be awesome for this team going into the future. Kind of like we said with Matt McClain, to just, not that we don't know what we have in Elly. We know he's great. We know he's phenomenal. If he can go 30 stolen bases, 80, or 80 stolen bases, 30 home runs in his first full MLB season, it would just be even more to get excited about for the future.
I've brought this up before. I think the discourse around Elly De La Cruz, I think it's weird. I think weird's the best way to put it, because everyone acknowledges his superstardom. Everyone knows how great of a player he is, but we don't talk about the plays that he generates. We don't talk about what he's actually doing on the field. Like, he's 30 home runs, right around there, a little less, probably 27.
Yeah.
He's on pace for well over 80 steals. And we just kind of go like, it's kind of almost an expectation of that's who he is. It's kind of just an expectation of, hey, we expect this guy to make great plays in the field and steal 80 bases and hit 30 home. Like, that's just Ellie. That's just the 22-year-old we had. I don't think enough people are giving Ellie De La Cruz his true flowers. Casey, seemed like you wanted to say something there.
All I was going to add on top of that is it would actually legitimately make me like a couple $100 richer. So good for business.
I have it as well.
That's good. That's good for the McAllister family war chest.
That's right.
Right there. And it would be just in time for like the second half of, well, you want to get, because the MVPs isn't selected. You have Ellie MVP as a ticket, or you have?
No, he's 30. We both have 30-30.
Oh, 30-30.
DraftKings, yeah.
Okay, well,
What's he at?
there you go.
No, for
That was great.
What's he at home runs wise?
18.
Oh.
It's going to take like a hot week, but
Yeah.
he had 4 home runs in a week earlier this year. So if he does it again, we're right back on pace.
As someone who bets decently frequently, I've always been steered away from futures unless they are incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
Like 10-1, 15-1. I remember a few years ago, a buddy of mine, like it was right around this time, Shohei was a shoo-in to win the AL MVP as long as he didn't get hurt. It was like even odds, like minus 150. And it was just before it was legal in Ohio. He sent a Venmo to my friend who lived in Indiana. Hey, can you put $15 on Shohei to win the MVP? We're not unit shaming here, but you weren't going to see that return until December when they announced the MVP. That's insane. What an insane! Just throw it $15. Hey, I'll get 25 in November. That's like a bond.
I have
it's
one
like
of
a
those.
war bond.
I have one of those that needs to hit.
What, like $10 on
Skoo-ball.
Skoo-ball, yeah.
Even money?
No. Plus 1,600.
Okay, well that's 16-1. See, that's value there.
It needs to hit.
All right, so we already did we done Matt McClain. We done Ellie De La Cruz. I want to say one that I don't think enough people are talking about. And when you talk about the Cincinnati Bengals team, there's been the talk about all the contracts. Man, from last year until pretty much June of this year, what did we talk about more than anything? What's going to happen with T. Higgins? What's going to happen? Even though we all kind of knew all along what was going to happen. He's going to sign the franchise tag. He might sign it again next year. But more than likely, he's just going to sign this franchise tag, and he'll go make money somewhere else. So the question is like, what is this team going to be okay without 2 stars? For the longest time, Joe Burrow had not only Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, but he also had Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd's gone. So, it'd be good for business? Jermaine Burton makes Tyler Boyd an afterthought. If Jermaine Burton looks like someone that can pair with Jamar Chase, the way that T. Higgins did, if Jermaine Burton looks like the star of the future for the Cincinnati Bengals team, that's good for business. That would be great. To where we don't worry about what's going to happen with T this offseason. To where we're not having conversations of, should we franchise tag T. Higgins again? Maybe we should just pay him because I don't like what we have right now. That would be great if Jermaine Burton turns out to be someone that I think his talent suggests he could be, but can he put it on the field? That'd be good for business.
That'd be phenomenal for business. If you don't have to worry about not having a solid number 2, not a solid number 2, if you don't have to worry about having an elite number 2 because you just drafted one in the 3rd round, that's about as good as it gets, especially for an organization that's going to have a lot of money locked up in some key pieces on that offense. You're going to have to hit on draft picks. So continuing to do that with Jermaine Burton, or even replace that name with an Andre Yoshivas or a Charlie Jones. If one of those guys, someone can break out as a legitimate number 3 receiver that you can put some faith in as an outside guy at the number 2 slot next year, that'd be great. It would ease a lot of concerns for Joe Burrow and the Bengals. It would help with the money side of things because you'd think if they don't show a flash this year, you're going to go out and sign somebody to be a number 2 wide receiver, someone not at T. Higgins level, but certainly spend some money on that room. If you can get those guys on rookie contracts to overperform their draft slot, that would be phenomenal.
If Jermaine Burton can turn into the talent that we expect him, that suggests he can be, then all of a sudden you're looking at your budget, right? Your salary cap a whole lot different. You're looking at, hey, we've now got this money because we don't need to give T. Higgins this money. We've got this money that we can use elsewhere. We've got this draft capital to where if Jermaine Burton doesn't turn out to be someone spectacular. Now we're looking at, hey, we got to draft someone really early in the next year or the year after, a first or second round pick on a wide receiver. Now we can all of a sudden go, hey, maybe we'll push it back a hair. And you can start using your resources elsewhere because you've got a bona fide stud. That's what I want from Jermaine Burton. And to where we are talking at the end of the year, not worrying about what's going to happen with T. Higgins. That's all I want. Casey, how awesome would it be if Jermaine Burton turns out to be a guy?
Oh, it would be phenomenal. It would be absolutely phenomenal. And not to mention just all the good reports in camp about Yoshi. I mean, that receiver room, if it is solid even without T, that would be great for business. And speaking of, I think maybe this is a little obvious, but Joe Burrow just staying healthy all season long would be great for business. That kind of goes in play with the rest of what you guys have said, but not having to do the same old argument about can he stay healthy, is he injury prone, all this, that, and the other. Basically, can the Bengals just answer the questions that we want? That'd be good for business, right? I mean, stay healthy, Joe. Marius Mims, can you play up to what we think you can? All those things would be great for business.
It's, you know, what's funny about we're doing this what's good for business thing. And yeah, we keep talking about, we knew when we had Joe Burrow healthy for that 4-game stretch last year, this team looked to be one of the best in the league, playing, you know, the 49ers and the Bills, who looked like true contenders. It's not just our bit. You ever think about like how much, like we always talk about whenever a big, you know, like the Western and Southern to Mason, this generates this many million dollars for the local area. Here in Hamilton, we got this Spooky Nook complex, and there's always like already in the first year of all these tournaments, it's generated this much money for the city of Hamilton and Butler County. You ever think about how much a healthy Joe Burrow helps this city's economy?
Probably more than $525 million.
Isn't it crazy?
Yeah, no, that's why whenever the debates about whether you re-sign quarterbacks or not, it's the point you brought up when we talked about Trevor Lawrence. It's like, sure, maybe he's not worth $55 million, but he's going to put more money into Jacksonville than that contract's worth anyway. And it's the same thing with Joe Burrow. All these small cities, when you finally get a star player that has some national recognition, they move the needle so much for the team. I mean, think about just how much more we've seen the Bengals be talked about on national media since we got Joe Burrow, and that's putting more eyes on the team. People are wanting to travel to Cincinnati to come see games. The crowds have gotten so much better. I mean, everyone talks about Cincinnati primetime games like they're the greatest thing in the entire world, because they are. And it's when you have someone like Joe Burrow to get excited about at the quarterback position, because there's no more important position in team sports. So when you have the guy you can get behind, it moves the needle more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, think about your local bar owner. You're a local bar owner, and it's Sunday football, and you know the Bengals are getting ready to play the Ravens. Joe Burrow's playing. You're expecting a pretty good crowd. Jake Browning's played great last year. Crowd gets a little smaller. Yeah, they still sell out all the games, but go look at Longworth Hall where the tailgates are. Less people. It generates money for the entire city. It's good for business all the way around, and that's just a healthy Joe Burrow. That's all it is. Case?
We have one last one before we wrap up this segment. Good for business, a team, NHL, NBA moving into Cincinnati, redoing Heritage Bank Stadium.
I don't even know if redoing would get it done.
Knocking down
I
and
think you
building
got to
new.
implode that puppy and build a new one. But that would definitely be phenomenal for business.
Phenomenal for business. Not only just for like just the city in general to have another sports team, but even for us having just another sports team to talk about would just do phenomenal for us.
Having another season to get excited about would be phenomenal. I mean,
yeah.
And I hate to say that with how much I, poo-poo FC Cincinnati, where I could just root for them and have a whole nother season. But having, basketball in the winter, NHL, that's dead periods for like MLS is going on right now where Reds fans are going to Reds games. Like you'd genuinely be able to fill some dead periods in the summer, in the early winter or late winter, in the early parts of the year, with exciting things to go to and talk about and look forward to. If you're a Cincinnati sports fan, tearing down Heritage and getting a winter sports team would be incredible. I'm personally team NHL. I think basketball fans in the city are pretty attached to Xavier and Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Not that NBA wouldn't work. I think it'd work fine. I just think there's a lack of hockey in the city, and the Blue Jackets haven't done a great job of penetrating the Cincinnati market and getting fans up there. So I think NHL would be phenomenal in the city.
I do think, too, that I believe it was you, Reed, that talked about the hockey, like just in the high school level, how it's all like Columbus and up north.
Yeah,
That-
it's
that
not
could
as
grow
it's
it down
not
to
it's
Cincinnati,
not a
too,
youth
though.
sports in this area for a great portion. I think basketball would do much better than NHL, but that's just my opinion. Whenever we talk about this, and it's just because play basketball, we already have love for basketball here in this town, and maybe you can say that we already use our the budget of our love for UC and Xavier that we have, and we don't have room for anything else. I would argue, I think you'd get behind an NBA team pretty quickly. All it takes is one superstar, and you're all the way in. You're all the way bought in. But that's a lot to ask for. It's a lot to ask for. And it all starts with a new facility, a new arena, which will come at some point.
Would probably get us better concerts too.
Would get us better concerts. You ever think about how, like, in the last 10 years, just the venues in the area have gotten
Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, like, 10 years ago, everything was at Riverbend.
Yeah.
Everything was at Riverbend. Like, the Reds really didn't host concerts. The Bengals would host sometimes. And it's still that way, like, to where it has to be a big arena. But Andrew Brady music, which I still haven't been to, yeah, the concert areas in this city have gone up. But we're going to step aside. You're listening to 1410 Wing AM, off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers.
All right. It is that time of the day, everyone. It's ads. Ads time. Ads. Ads. Yes. Start with Pawnee Water. Pawnee Water, made right here in Hamilton, Ohio, uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing other brands use. The result being a healthy alkaline water, and some say the best tasting water in the world. Visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNIwater.com so you can buy this great tasting water. I personally use it every single time, I drink it every single time that it's here in the office. I don't like to drink any other water because it's that good of water that tastes great and refreshes me. Also, by the way, a little side note, getting a little off track here. Team builder in college football. I put Pawnee Water in my stadium.
He did. Encore Technologies and Pawnee Water sponsors NKU's Dynasty in Casey's.
NKU?
He built their
I made
uniform.
NKU.
He spent hours in Photoshop, like drawing designs for his
That's
jerseys.
incredible.
Insanity.
Yeah, I mean, it's phenomenal. So, yeah, shout out to Pawnee Water. And speaking of Encore Technologies.
The field sponsor.
The field sponsors for NKU Football Club. The Reds Bengals report is proudly sponsored by Encore Technologies. At Encore Technologies, we deliver cutting-edge IT solutions for a data-driven world. From mobile computing and desktop support to advanced data center solutions, we help businesses enhance efficiency and
Productivity.
that's right. Visit encore.tech, where your path to innovation begins. And then let me tell you guys about the Game Time app, our ticketing app here at Chatterbox Sports. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. And of course, I always like to talk about some of the events that are happening here around town. Let's start with FC tonight in Leagues Cup. $11 right now for seats. That's not bad. That's actually really, really good. I mean, we should probably go today, to be honest with you.
Get down there.
Luke Combs. Tickets are as low as $39 for tomorrow.
They have been slashed in the last
they are
week. It's
going-
awesome.
That's what happened.
It's
Well,
not awesome.
It's those second nights. Those
It's the
second
second
nights. It's the same thing that happened when we saw Zach up at Buckeye Country Fest. It's like they were like $150, and like people just get closer to the concert. They're just like, can't go anymore. $30. 70,000 people is a lot of people to get in there.
Yeah, well, Game Time app helping us out there with those prices. And if you want to go up to the Hall of Fame game tonight, those prices have also dropped. They're at $26 now, Jacob.
Might have me an early day and get up to Canton.
Why not? Others, there's, of course, Reds tickets for the Giants series here. They're about $10 at the moment. Commanders at Bengals for Monday Night Football, $100 gets you in. There's lots of different events. You should check out the Game Time app, see what other events and things of that nature, what you can get for good low prices. Or you just wait till Game Time or Showtime, and they'll probably have great prices there too, because
That's
it's
right.
the Game Time app. Other little things, housekeeping things, please give our show a like. Share it with a friend. We really appreciate it. We appreciate Reed coming in and filling in for Kenner.
Oh, thanks.
That helps us out tremendously. Just show him some support. Hit that like button. Share
That's
it with
right.
a friend. If you haven't done so already, you can become a member. They're $10 and $25. The $25 gets you a code for our merch store. That gets you a discount for some of our merchandise. And speaking of, we have a merch store. If you ever wanted to check that out, just type in Chatterbox Sports, and it's one of the first things that comes up. So do that as well. Any other housekeeping items before I toss it back over to you, Reed? You have?
No, I was just gonna, talk about concerts in general. It's like, will they stop doing the second nights at stadium tours? Did we get a little greedy? Did we get a little greedy? Because Mouse Cop brought in Garth Brooks had that same problem. They do a second, they sell out the first night. They're like, hey, we sold it out so quick, let's do a second night, and then the second night just doesn't do as well. Is it all just precipitation of everyone thinking they could match Taylor's Eras tour?
Does it benefit the artists at all to stay like an extra night just to like kind of recuperate? Like, I don't know. I don't know how
The artist gets paid per performance. So like
Right,
it's what
but-
happens is they call up and they say, hey, we want to do a second night. What's that going to cost? Taylor Swift says, hey, it costs $2.5 million for me to do a second night. So they pay it, and then they go, hey, hopefully we can make ticket money.
But they don't like have any other added benefit of like, I'm not traveling right after my concert night. You know what I mean? Like they can relax, I guess. I don't know how to explain it other than that.
Luke
I don't know if
Combs
there's
is,
any other benefits to it.
I'm looking at it on Game Time. Luke Combs is more expensive on Saturday night than he is on Friday night.
Yeah, it's
And I think-
the openers are drastically different.
Oh,
Friday
yeah.
night is like more bluegrass, like, real country, and Saturday night is like pop country, more radio songs.
Nice.
Let me see these openers. Before I look, which night do you think I'd
I
rather
am much
see?
more excited for Friday, so I assume you will have the same.
Where
opinion.
can I see these openers at?
I just
Cincinnati.
Googled. Oh, here's an article.
Openers. Who's opening for Luke Combs? Friday night is Cody Jinks, Charles Wesley Godwin. Those are two good.
Great ones.
Those are two great. And then the second night is.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. Friday certainly gets me a little better.
So what
certainly intrigues me.
what time will Luke Combs be starting?
I think Luke Combs comes on at 9. Gates open at like 5:45.
Okay.
Let's get a Luke Combs Chapel Roan concert.
Oh,
All over it.
what a time that would be.
I had a 35-minute car ride to my baseball game yesterday.
Very
I
nice.
listened to Chapel Roan the entire ride.
Phenomenal.
Just replayed 4 or 5 songs. Just
H.O.T.
I'm not gonna go through the album. Just tell me the hits and I'll just listen to those for the week until I get tired of them, and then I'll move on.
That's fair.
But Chapel Roan.
Chaperone has a grip on the Chatterbox office right now.
Yes, she
Comedy
does.
Club.
We're dialed.
We are hot to go. HOTTOGO. Like I said, Jacob's jaw went to the floor when he heard me quoting Chapel Roan. I said it yesterday at the game, and they said, "Is that Chapel Roan in the dugout?" And I was like, "Yeah."
I do love how everyone is like,
Knows the song.
Wait, how do you know Chapel Roan?
Right,
Which
it's like-
they also know Chapel
Right,
Roan.
right. It was so my friends drove out to. We played at Fenwick High School, and Fenwick High School, like in the outfield, has like a hill that overlooks the fence. My friends actually came and tailgated. One friend bought a megaphone and was just talking bull junk the entire game to these 30 to 40-year-old men as we got our butts kicked. It was fun. It was a good time. I had to catch, which stunk. All right, let's go back to Radio Land. Yes. Yeah. 2 more segments. Spoiler, I didn't plan for a 6th. Radioland. And we are back on Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. I'm Reed Mouse, filling in for Justin Kinner. He'll be back tomorrow, back in this seat.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. You guys got to take it easy on Kinner in the chat, by the way.
Yeah, I'm saying.
I know the radio listeners love him, but the chat's got to take it easy on him. He's doing a good job. Now, when it comes to football season, then we can kind of dig in on Ken Dog a little too much. I mean, and this is coming from the guy who got kicked off the show because of him. If there's anyone that should be hard on him, it's me. It's me, but I'm not. All right, so before we get into Casey, before we get into tonight is the opening of the NFL season. Casey, you had one more good for business. Did you already say it? Did you already say that on the off air?
The one that I did not get to that one. The other one is just keeping Cincinnati Bengals here in town.
Certainly.
They their deal comes up in like 2026, 7.
I think it's 6. That conversation has completely faded since they got Joe Burrow.
I was gonna say, is that a legit worry?
Pre-Joe Burrow, it was terrifying.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there was a legitimate concern that they might not stay here in Cincinnati, which.
Yeah, pre-Joe Burrow, it was very, very real. Now that we've been winning,
Okay.
I think there's a 0% chance they leave. But again, that extension will hit real hard. That'll be great news.
Yeah, I mean, like if we put odds on it, even before Joe Burrow, the odds weren't great. You can say it was a very real threat, but we're still looking at like a 10% chance that the Bengals were going to move. At least in my opinion.
Okay.
Now with Joe Burrow, zero. They're going nowhere. Yeah. They're going absolutely nowhere. Did the county maybe get a raw deal on that stadium? I don't know. I don't know. I brought this up before when we talk about these things because in the latter part of the last century, it started becoming a thing where cities and tax dollars were going towards building new facilities in towns and cities. And the idea was that the economic impact would greatly benefit and would be a plus for the surrounding communities. I think most economic people that study that kind of thing say that, there's really no positive impact to having a stadium. And people will point, well, look at the banks down there and stuff like that. The cities that have no professional sports teams big cities still have strips of bars. Like that doesn't change. Like that doesn't move anything. Like it's just it just gives you an area. It gives you an arena district. Yeah, but the people that study these things say that there's no real giant impact of having stadiums. But then I also argue that what's the purpose of a government is to make its citizens' lives better. Like we all come together and we say, hey, let's all make a contract. We'll give money to people that are elected and they'll make decisions for us to make our lives better. And I would argue that having a brand new facility, a brand new baseball field, a brand new football stadium, a brand new concert venue, all these things here in Hamilton, we have River's Edge, that can make no money. Can lose money a little bit. I'm okay with it because it makes my life a little better as a citizen. So that's where the argument comes into play is, hey, maybe it's not a good economic benefit, but maybe it doesn't always have to be. Maybe it's just the government's role to make our lives a little better. But we're not doing that here today. So the NFL season starts tonight. It's the Hall of Fame game. It is the Chicago Bears playing on national television. They're playing who?
The Texans.
The Texans.
C.J. Stroud Williams versus C.J. Stroud.
Is C.J. Stroud playing? Because I'm going to get into Okay, so here's what I'll say about the Bears. C.J. Stroud, that's a known quantity. That is a known quantity. We saw what happened last year, second overall pick. People are already putting him in top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm not going to talk about whether I think that's silly or not. Spoiler, I do. But he's a pretty good quarterback. I think that the Chicago Bears, for the first time since drafting Caleb Williams, are taking a misstep.
I agree.
I think that this is an opportunity for them, and I get it. It's a preseason game. It doesn't matter. We'll forget about this quicker Like, we'll forget about this very quickly. But for the first time, they are making a misstep. What do you do when you get a potential franchise-changing guy? You put weapons around him, kind of the Joe Burrow model, right? You draft a lot of wide receivers. You bring in they did that, check. Now you have an opportunity on a standalone game, the start of NFL, and it's going to have more eyes on it than any other preseason game. This is kind of an opportunity to buck the trend that is, hey, we are a franchise that has never gotten offense right. And it's almost in the entirety of the Bears franchise, they have not gotten offense right, and they certainly haven't gotten quarterback right. When Jay Cutler is the best quarterback in your franchise's history, and I love Jay Cutler, when he's the best quarterback in your franchise's history and you're the oldest franchise in the sport, that's not good. That's not good. And now you have the guy that most people that study NFL draft picks, that study NFL prospects, say he's the best prospect to come out in 12 years since Andrew Luck, who was as surefire as it gets. And you do all the things around him, and you got a real chance. You got a real chance to put him in front of eyes and say, hey, this is not our coming out party, but look what we got. We got this shiny new toy. The Bears are finally going to figure out offense, and you're going to have the pride of, let me check, Martinsburg, West Virginia. The pride of Shepherd University, Tyson Bagent, start for your team. I think this is a misstep. I think we don't even need to see him play 2 quarters. We don't even need to see him play a half. Just let us see Caleb Williams play a drive. Put him out there on national television. Receive the kick. If you win the toss, the other team's going to kick it to you. Let him start the NFL season. Let him be the focal point for at least the start of this NFL cycle. But instead, you're going to sit him. I just think it's a misstep in public relations, if nothing else. I think you have an opportunity as a franchise that, once again, has never gotten offense right. With an identity of we're the hard-nosed Chicago Bears. Remember 85? Remember Ditka? Remember that? Hey, now we are the new trending team. Now we see where the NFL is going. It is the Patrick Mahomes, it's the Joe Burrows, it's the Josh Allens, it's the Lamar Jacksons, and now we've got one of them. We got Caleb Williams, and we're going to put him in front of the world to see to start the NFL season. No, we're going to put Tyson Bagent. Am I crazy?
No.
Is this a nothing burger?
Oh, no.
Or is this a misstep for the Chicago Bears?
I totally agree with you. I think, kind of like you said, the Bears have always gotten offense wrong. And I think that obviously Caleb Williams is a very fascinating prospect, and I think he's a phenomenal quarterback. He was phenomenal in college. But at the same time, you saw some spurts when the lights were bright where he just did not perform well at all. So I think sitting him for his first preseason game, like you said, when he could start the NFL season. And I think he's a player in the NFL that fans are most excited to see how he turns out.
Both sides.
Yeah.
The haters and the fans.
Oh, yeah,
There's a lot of people that hate
the
him
haters
too.
and the fans. Yeah. And I think that sitting him is kind of, I don't know, it feels like to me it's acting like something's for sure that's not. You know, it's not like you went out and signed an Aaron Rodgers, who is a proven NFL quarterback, who has won a bunch, thrown for tens of thousands of yards, and you don't want to risk him getting hurt because you know what you have. I feel like with Caleb Williams, you don't know what you have yet. You think you know what you have, but you don't know what you have. So I think just one drive would bring so many eyes to the game and also show you what you have. So I think it's disappointing that they're not playing him, and I think sitting him is kind of them trying to say we know what we have, but at the same time you don't really know. You're treating him like a superstar, and he very well could be the next superstar quarterback in the NFL, but I think it's not for sure yet, and I feel like they're kind of treating it like he is for sure going to be a superstar. So I think that they should have played him for a drive, like Reed said, but
just let him run out on the field.
Right. Take a snap.
Yeah. Let the graphics come up. Let the announcers talk about Caleb Williams. Let him drop back on the first play of the game and let him launch one.
Mm-hmm.
and then you play the first drive, and then it's back to normal. But let social media have its clips of Caleb Williams rolling out to his right. Let him complete one pass down midfield or something like that. Just let it happen, and let your team be the center of sports media for at least one news cycle.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Will it be forgotten in no time? Yeah. Will they get that moment at the first week of regular season? Yeah. But you have an opportunity to not bury it underneath 16 NFL games. You're the standalone. The only thing you're going up against is Major League Baseball in the middle of the Olympics. Not even the end of the team sports. I just think you have an opportunity to put your team on a pedestal, to get your fan base excited, to get your division a little worried. All these things, maybe it's silly, and it probably is. But for the first time, and I want to commend the Chicago Bears for doing pretty much everything right. The other thing that they didn't do right was the head coach. He probably wanted just a fresh reset, because if it doesn't work out this year, he's gone, and you're going to have to reset in year 2. Didn't seem right. Maybe just get an offensive guy in there, and you just let Caleb Williams with a new regime in there. But for the first time, they have kind of taken a misstep with Caleb Williams. Everyone wants to see him play just a drive. Don't need him playing for the game, a half, a quarter, one drive. Let him throw a few passes. Let the graphics go up. Let us get a highlight. And let's talk about Caleb Williams for a couple of days.
My thing with the Bears too is since 2007 or 2013, only 2 teams in the NFC North have finished last in the division in that time. The Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears. And the Chicago Bears have finished last more times than the Lions have. And for a while, I think that the Lions were kind of the butt of the joke of that division, and which by all means necessary. But now I think the Bears have a chance to kind of not, like, they've become the joke of that division. Every single year, Bears fans come in. This is the year we're going to go 12-5. We're going to do it this year. We've got all the pieces. 5-12, 6-11. So I think they have the pieces this year, and I think everyone kind of knows it. And they have a chance to kind of right the offensive struggles that they've had over the years. And now, for the first time, you're the first game of the NFL season. I know it's preseason. We know that. It's not like it's week 1 here, but you have a chance just to kind of show what you have and show that, yeah, we're back. And I feel like they're not doing it.
Guys, you see what I got right here? That's
Looks
a
like-
nothing burger.
Oh, you're going to take a big old bite of it?
That's a big old bite of a nothing burger. And that's what you guys have been doing for the last 15 minutes here, is talking about nothing. It's the preseason. Come on, guys. You don't got to play starters in the preseason. What happens if Caleb Williams goes out there in the Hall of Fame game and he rolls his ankle? And he can't practice in training.
You can't play like you can't.
Yeah.
Because if he rolls an ankle in the first preseason game,
and he can't practice in training camp and get ready for week 1 with the new roster, I think you got to hold him out. You protect your assets. He's the most leveraged the Bears have ever been on an asset in a long, long time. And you want to risk him against the Texans' backups in the Hall of Fame game?
Is Rome going to
no,
play?
I want to show off your asset. I want you to put a little more money in your pockets, getting people excited. Sell a few more jerseys. Get people excited with your guy on primetime football. For the first time, we are seeing National Football League football since the Super Bowl. I want to see the first plays be Caleb Williams.
Would it be more fun? Absolutely. Are Bears fans going to watch Drive 1 no matter who's playing quarterback? Sure. If Caleb was going to play the whole game, I totally agree. But he was only ever going to play 1 or 2 drives. And Bears fans are going to watch those drives anyway. I know I'm going to watch those drives anyway. Probably put the line at drives watched at about 4.5. But I would watch the drives that Caleb was in, whether he's in there or not. I think you got to protect your asset. I have no problem with sitting these guys in the preseason.
Do you want him to play preseason at all, or do you want him to just sit until week 1?
I am not a preseason matters guy. So
Okay. So the same thing goes for like Joe Burrow and the rest of the Bengals. You want
got to
them
give your
sit.
guys a drive there. Come on.
I would have, listen, go back to 2020. I was chomping at the bit to see Joe Burrow play. Chomping at the bit. So was the rest of the NFL. And yeah, they'll get a chance eventually, right? Caleb Williams will play in the NFL. But I just think it's a time, it's a chance to really galvanize your fan base, to scare the division opponents, and to kind of start down the line of what could be a great anti-hero for the Chicago Bears, because people are going to hate Caleb Williams. They're going to hate, already do. People, he's a bust. He stinks, despite pretty much every smart person saying, hey, he's going to be pretty good. People point at Trevor Lawrence had a similar kind of billing. But man, oh man, you could do wonders for your franchise by just letting Caleb Williams play drive. That's all I'm asking. I want to see Caleb Williams play. I want to see him roll out. I want to see him throw it downfield. I want to see what the Bears have. And I'm not going to get that. Instead, I'm going to get the pride of, let me check my notes again, Martinsburg, West Virginia, Shepherd University, the Shepherd Rams, Tyson Badger. Ramley. All right, we'll be right back here on 1410 Wing AM Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. All right, as always, whenever I host this show, just like David Bell, I don't prepare for the end. David Bell has a well-crafted plan for the first 2 games, or the first 3 games of the series. It's always that last one that gets him. Reed Mouse, when he hosts the show, he plans 5 segments.
How long has the show been 6 segments long?
4 months now.
Okay.
4 months now, and I planned 5 segments. And we keep it rolling with 5. We got nothing for the 6th segment. There is a lot of Olympics going on. There's been a lot of things that have come out from the Olympics. We're not going to show a clip because we actually got in trouble for that.
Yes.
I'm not even going to do like the man, we shouldn't have done that, because we shouldn't have done that. We'll be okay. We'll be okay. Did you guys see the Turkish pistol shooter, sharpshooter?
Yes.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it was incredible. You kind of burst my bubble this morning by informing me that it was a team win, but still cool nonetheless.
Yeah, so if you guys didn't see this, they were showing this Turkish sharpshooter. It wasn't rifling. I don't know what the event was, because he was holding a pistol. I don't know marksmanship. I don't know what the official event is, but he took silver, and they showed like other competitors in this event, and they've got these glasses that look like they're straight out of Spy Kids, where they're guarding one eye, and they've got like a scope on the other eye, and they're trying to block out all vision. And they're hoisting up one arm with their other arm, and they're wearing padded like a padded shirt to rest their elbow on. And then they got this Turkish guy who's just wearing like an athletic T-shirt. He's got one hand in the pocket, and he's just aiming his pistol with his eye. Just raw dog in the Olympics, and took silver. So that was pretty exciting. Jason Tatum got the start yesterday. What a mercy from Steve Kerr.
Yeah, it's the latest victim of cyberbullying, Steve Kerr and the U.S. basketball team. So, yeah, Jason Tatum went and cried in the locker room, oh, I got a $300 million contract. I'm a champion. I'm a top 5 player in the league. And Steve Kerr said, yeah, sure, we'll play you. But Steve Kerr made a great decision yesterday that I want to applaud him for.
Which is?
He sat my least favorite player in the world, Joel Embiid. 0 minutes, but he clapped well. He clapped well on the bench, so that was good. I think Joel Embiid's best for this team as a cheerleader. So the more time he spends on the bench, the more wins I think this USA team's going to have, and they're really clicking. They beat Serbia by 20 in the first game, and Serbia won by 45 against Puerto Rico yesterday. So one of the best teams in the world, certainly, and Nikola Jokic continues to prove that he's maybe the best player in the world. He's the first player in Olympic history to have 10 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 assists in a single game. He was 1 assist away from having the 4th triple-double in the history of the Olympics. A lot of focus on the USA team. It's easy to forget all the foreign NBA players that are playing in the Olympics as well, and he's just been unbelievable.
I can't wait for Angel Reese to topple that record when she plays in the Olympics at the next Olympics. By the way, can we agree? We just talked about how the Bears had a misstep. Like, this is a PR opportunity for them to put their best thing forward. The women's team, we talked a lot about Caitlin Clark not making it. And I think we can all agree, like, hey, I don't care either way. I think a lot of people say, how can you do this? How can you leave Caitlin Clark? Because maybe she wasn't deserving of making the team. But your sport has more eyes watching it than ever, and now they're just going to sit beside while the Olympics take place for 5 weeks or however long it is, and they won't get back into action for 2 more weeks. And I'll go a step further. It's a misstep in not only having Caitlin Clark not make the team, but Angel Reese too, because that rivalry has made the WNBA more watched than ever. People want to compare it to Magic and Bird, and I don't think that's a crazy comparison because they are, college rivals that now get to rival each other in the league and kind of get so many more people watching the sport. And now you're just going to sit beside for 4 or 5 weeks and not let your 2 most popular players play. Seems silly.
I'm interested to see how it'll affect the WNBA when they come back from the break. It helped them certainly that you went straight from the Final Four of the college season into the draft where expectations were high, and then straight into the season where they're I don't know how many teams are in the league, but the Fever and the Sky are on national TV seemingly every night that they play, and they play each other all the time. And people have been on the edge of their seat watching WNBA more than they ever have, and then you go in a 2-month break where you take the 2 biggest stars of the game out of the sport. I don't know how many people are watching the women's Olympics team, but I've certainly heard about it much less than I heard about the WNBA when it was happening, and I would expect it to be the opposite. You'd think combining the all-stars or whatever of the WNBA on one team, you're hearing about the U.S. men's team nonstop, and if you had Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese on the women's team, I think it would be the exact same thing as you're seeing with the men's team.
There would be a lot more eyeballs watching those women's team games, and yeah, when they come back to WNBA play, they're going up against the start of the NFL season, the start of college football, and the end of the MLB season. So for all the new eyeballs, all the new fans that you got, and seriously, that is incredible that they're going to get, all the players in the WNBA are going to get paid more because of what Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese have done.
Not to mention the 2 of them in the WNBA All-Star team waxed the Olympic team in the All-Star
No doubt.
game.
So it just you hope that it doesn't go back to where it was, and it won't. But it seems like you are instead of catching lightning in a bottle, you're just letting it sit outside the glass. So is what it is. The men's, women's team, soccer teams. The men's play Morocco. Got an update from the soccer fans over on the producers table.
Yeah, they play Morocco, I believe. Let me just double check. I think it's today because the women's team played yesterday. Women's team, by the way, phenomenal. That group of
Shout
girls,
out Mallory Swanson.
They're a really good group of girls right now. I think that club is going to be in good hands for a long time. The men, though, they had just reached the quarterfinal in a long time, right? This has been a long time since they've been in the quarterfinal, and now they play Morocco.
24 years.
Which all things that I'm seeing is that Morocco is a pretty good matchup for our men's team.
So we win this one, we get a shot at bronze regardless. We get a shot at
That's right.
medaling regardless. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Who's still around? I got to see the men's.
If we do win against Morocco, it's either between Spain or Japan, right?
Spain or Japan.
Japan is just probably going to end up anyways, but
What happens if the Stars and the Stripes are going up against your Spaniards for a medal?
Oh no. What then?
Might get a peek into your political alliances.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh man. Didn't Spain lose? I thought Spain lost.
U.S. lost too.
Oh, so
the group stages you can lose one. You can basically lose one game.
Then once you're in the tournament, okay. I got you. I'm with you. Yeah, if U.S., I will root for USA.
That's big of you.
Begrudgingly.
Well, these are the U23 teams anyways, so
Right.
not the real deal.
I mean, we already won the Euros.
Right.
I mean, what they say when they won, it kind of got me jazzed. They won and they said, "The old kings of European soccer back on top," and I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah, we are.
yeah." Funny you said kings, because I'm pretty sure we had kings until Spain had kings until like the 80s, dictatorship and everything. It was great. Democracy didn't hit Spain until the 1980s. That's my fun fact that I like pulling out, that I literally tell people all the time, and it's never received a positive review, and they're like, okay. Like,
What do you want the reaction?
I just want
to
them to be like, really? Really? Okay. All these other countries have had democracy for forever. Spain's had it for like less than Kings Island's been around. So it's
very funny when you put it in that perspective.
it's wild. It's wild to think about. There's one thing that I wanted to talk about, and I think that it's pretty interesting. Casey, I sent you a tweet earlier, and I'll cue it up while you get that ready. So I have had this take about college football, the college football playoff. And, you know, when we started talking about the 12 teams, there was these fans of, the most ardent college football fans, which also coincided with the fans that are also of the powerhouses. You notice that those fans are the ones trying to gatekeep the playoffs expanding. They said when you add 12 games, you're going to minimize how important regular season is, because now teams like Ohio State, Alabama can lose. They don't need to win every single game. And I say, yeah, maybe, certainly. That perfect storm that we saw a couple years ago of Tennessee versus Alabama, when, Tennessee won and, they took the goalpost out, threw it in the river, all that stuff. That might not happen as much. But you get all these extra teams. You get Wisconsin. You get Missouri. And I brought this up last time I hosted. You get all these teams that now they've got a chance to make the college football playoff. Now they're interested in week 9, week 10. And it's not just they lose and go, okay, we're the 20th team in the country, but it doesn't matter. So I found this graphic that shows pretty much, and it's not a one-size-fits-all, but it's a graphic to show how many upsets they will require to get in the college football playoff, and then vice versa, how many mulligans they have to how many games they can lose and still make the college football playoff. And this is based off of spreads. So you'll see like the teams that are just win baby, the zeros, those teams need to pretty much play exactly how they are expected to play. No upsets, and win the games that they are favored in. I think it's very interesting to think of a Georgia team could be 9-3, 10-3, and still make the college football playoff. I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, I think it would probably take the 10 if I had to guess. 9-3 might keep you out, but yeah, I think 10-3 Georgia would certainly get in, and I think there's definitely a route that they could win the SEC with 3 losses. And I think this is a thing that people don't necessarily think about with the 12-team playoff expansion. These powerhouse programs in the SEC and Big Ten played much harder schedules than everyone else. So when you get to the end of the season and you're looking at a bunch of teams with 2 or 3 losses, you're going to be putting those powerhouse teams in. Whether the Big 12 champion has 2 losses and Georgia, who lost the SEC championship, has 3 losses, Georgia's going to get in. Like, it's going to end up being those teams that have played the harder schedule and have the better wins. I think you're going to see more dominance from those top teams because they're going to be able to slip up and still get in and still win a championship. And ultimately, the talent is going to overcome everyone else when they get on the field with another team. Like, if UC would have played in a 12-team playoff the year that they made the Final Four, there's a 0 chance in my mind that they would have made it to the Final Four. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the part of it that you see with this. And then you get down to teams like Auburn. It requires 3 upsets for them to be out of the playoff. I find it hard to believe that an Auburn team with 5 losses or whatever that would even be in the conversation to get in.
It would be 3 that
they would have to upset. Okay,
3
okay.
teams.
So that
Correct.
makes sense. Yeah, so they would be in the 2-loss range, probably 1-loss range.
Right.
That makes sense then. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's weird to look at the teams in the 0 category. Louisville, they must play a pretty easy schedule. I haven't looked at their schedule this year. The ACC is definitely weak, but Ole Miss up there, you'd think at 10-2, which is what they have done for the last however many years. You'd think they'd probably be in the green, but they're in that 0. So I don't know. It's definitely interesting to look at. It'll be weird to see how it shakes out. I don't think we're going to get a grasp of what to expect when watching the regular season for this playoff for another couple of years. You're going to have to see how the committee reacts to losses and everything like that. So I think it's going to be a lot of guessing going through this season until we see how the committee operates when we get to decision time.
Let me specify here for the chats, because I think some people aren't grasping it. It's not like how many losses they're allowed to have. Like, so if you look at the 0 win or the 0 thing, like Ole Miss and that 0, it's not that they have to go 12-0 to make the college football playoff. It's based on how many games you play, whether you are favored or not. So I would say probably a 2-loss team would get in for Ole Miss. They're probably underdogs in 2 games. They can lose those games, but they just got to win the games that they are favored in. That's all it is. Georgia's favored in every game. They can afford 3 losses. Now, once again, that's not one size fits all. That's like saying, hey, if you lose your first week game against whoever they play, Citadel or whatever it is, that obviously changes. But like a team, so you're looking at a team like TCU, where they need 1 upset. It's win all the games they are favored in and then upset 1 team. So if I had to guess, they are probably favored in 9 of their 12 games.
Well, like the 3 mulligans Georgia is probably allowed to have is like Alabama, LSU, and Texas, right?
Correct.
Like they can't mess up on any other games. Otherwise, they can't just lose to any random 3 teams.
That's also assuming that they lose all 3 of those games, I feel like.
Yeah, if you beat Alabama and Texas and lose to someone who's
Someone
not as
else,
good, you're
right.
still probably
You're
going
still
dancing.
fine.
Yeah.
Because you beat Alabama and Texas. So.
Mouse Cop keeps hitting the home about UC wanting, like, why would they need 5 upsets for a bigger field? And this is like, Mouse Cop, they are
Significantly worse.
They're underdogs in almost every game.
So you'd have to upset 5 teams to even be in the
Right,
conversation.
like, yeah. It is. I'm not gonna. It is a somewhat confusing graphic to comprehend. Like, it wasn't like a tier list. Although you could kind of look at it like that, to where like, hey, these are teams. Like, Stanford's going to need to upset in 8 games. I think it's gonna be really interesting. I really do think that November. Is that Thunder?
It sure
Thunder.
is.
Oh no, my dog.
I think the interesting thing about this too is Notre Dame being at 1. The only game I believe that they're underdogs in is the very first game of the season. So I feel like the kind of general consensus there is if
Notre Dame's underdog in 1 game. So yeah, that would make sense, because you're looking at 10-12 gets Notre Dame in. So if they're underdog in 1 game, they win 10 of their 11 games that they're favored in. That gives them 1 mulligan, 10-12, 10-2's in.
Yeah, and I mean they're underdogs at A&M, and I think part of that has to just do with A&M being a hard place to play.
Nick Mormon said he
first
understands
week
the
of the
graphic, but he thinks the chart is wrong. And like, I want to specify that it once again is not not all wins and losses are created equal.
Right.
It's just kind of guiding, like, if you were to lose this game, this is the most likely loss.
It's all based on the spread.
right.
So you're only able to get that number if you're beating teams that you're not favored against.
It also changes throughout the season too. Like,
Yeah.
if UC were to upset 4 of those teams, maybe UC ends up being favored against that 5th team. And it's
Right.
like,
Obviously, the rankings change. Like, you can look forward and say, hey, Georgia Alabama is going to be an incredible game. Well, what happens if Alabama loses 2 games early, and then it's 1 versus 10 instead of 1 versus 4?
Yeah.
And you're having a completely different conversation about the value of those losses. What happens like last year when Missouri snuck into the top 10? No one preseason expected them to even compete for the SEC. They were 1 loss away from getting to the SEC championship, and that would obviously affect the spread and affect the chart. So it obviously, it'll change as the season goes on. I think it's a good way to look at the wiggle room your team has and try to understand exactly what's going to make you a competitor for this new playoff. Because, again, we don't know what the committee's going to value. It was different from the 2-team to the 4-team, and it's going to be different from the 14 to the 12-team.
I'm interested to see how much they value losing in a conference championship game.
I am too.
So, like, if you're kind of a fringe team and make the conference championship game, or you're one of the lower seeds like the 9 to 12, and you lose in your conference championship game, say Penn State plays Oregon in the conference championship game, and
Something would have had to go terribly wrong.
I feel like you're projecting a little bit
yeah,
about worrying about the conference
Well, no.
championship losers. I feel like that's a Notre Dame problem.
why?
It is a Notre Dame problem. Because a 10-2 Notre Dame would be below a 10-3 team that lost in a Power 5 championship.
Oh, well. I just realized that this was probably not the best radio segment. So if you guys are listening in the Dayton area, feel free to check out our YouTube stream. You'll see the graphic. You'll see all of our lovely faces. You can find us on YouTube. Just search Chatterbox Sports or Off the Bench. We'll be right there. But that does it for the radio portion of this show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Justin Kinner will be here tomorrow sitting in this seat. Reed Mouse signing off on Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. You're listening to 1410 Wing AM. And we are back. Casey shot me with his finger guns. Poo poo. Pow pow. America didn't win the sharpshooting competition. Maybe we're not as good as we think. This is crazy.
Roofs were probably slanted.
It's crazy to think that, like, my life, I hear thunder, and the first thing that comes to mind is, like, my dog's not okay.
Yeah, my dog freaked out with thunder too.
And it's we have anxiety medicine for him. He's 140 pounds, so he does damage too. Like he gets after it. So it was, what was it, 2 nights ago where they it was overnight where it stormed a lot. He is 140 pounds. He slept on top of my head. Like if he would have moved over, he would have suffocated me. Like he's laying on my pillow. He's also Great Pyrenees, so they do this thing where they punch you and stuff like that. I mean, he's just hit me. It was a terrible night of sleep. But you got to let him because got to take care of that dog, and he's just super freaked out. He has no clue what's going on. I wish he was just a little smarter. Just like, it's just rain, buddy. That lightning bolt's not going to hit you, but he's going to be all right. What's going on. It's going to be it stinks that the second this show's over, I'm going to run over there and make sure he's okay.
Got to.
Make sure he's okay. But it's all good. I like that graphic. I think I think college football is going to be great. I think I'm going to be more in tune with college football than I perhaps ever
Good.
have.
Same.
I'm glad.
I think because it's
The format
because
makes
more
it much
games
more.
matter.
Yeah,
I like
more games matter.
The majority of the games, like everyone tells me how great college football is, and I look at the schedule and it's like NC State versus Syracuse, and I'm like, oh, this is what I gotta get excited
Those
about.
games rock.
Now they will, because they'll matter. They'll matter. It didn't matter.
I was more excited for the NFL for the going into like most of this year, but I think with at least maybe it was just the college football game coming out, but I think I've gotten a lot more excited for college football and kind of remembering, like you guys said, that there's a new format. Like for a while, it just felt like, I mean, if you lost a game, like you were out, at least on my side of things. But now I think this year, it's not every single game is a playoff game if you're not in Alabama, Ohio State, or Georgia. So I think that'll be exciting, and you'll kind of get more parity, which is good. I think in the next couple of years, you have a 3-loss team win the championship, which will be fun, I think.
But I think that 3-loss team is going to be in Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State, and Oregon. Like, I don't think you're going to get parity in champions. You're going to get parity in a shot to compete for a championship. Yeah. I think we're going to see even more watered down champions.
Because how many?
What if we like in year one we get just something that like we always look at the Royals championship and go like, see, small markets can do it, even though it's like one small market team. Like, what if in year 1 or year 2, like the unsuspecting 7 seed wins it all? It would be great, because for the last, I think Trace made this argument when we started talking about the 12 team playoff. He said, if this 12 team playoff had been in for the last 20 years, we'd still have the same champions. And I'm like, the same champions every year? Like, there wouldn't be one upset? I would just like it to, in the first few years, we get like a 7 seed win. Yeah. That'd be cool. That'd be really neat. And it would buy that conversation going away for at least a decade.
It's going to be
like literally the number 1 seed could win for the next 9 years, and we'd be like, yeah, but you remember like Missouri winning as the 8 seed year 1? That was pretty rad.
It's going to be the Irish this year.
I
love our Irish, but we don't do good in those good games.
I think it's going to be weird how people talk about the playoff too. Are you going to talk about the playoff by seeding or by ranking? Like, are you going to be more impressed by a 7 seed winning the championship or the 11th ranked team who's the 4 seed? Because the seeding is conference champions are the top 4 teams. So it's not necessarily the top 4 teams in the rankings are going to get the buys. So
Right.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how it's talked about, just on TV,
Yeah.
on whatever else. What number are you putting next to the name, the
I know,
seed or the ranking?
When Notre Dame's number 1 and they're the 5 seed, what are we gonna?
Right.
What
Like
are
if
we
Notre
gonna
Dame's
talk
the number
about?
1 team, the highest they could be is the 5 seed. I think that's another interesting way to think about it, because a 7 seed might win it, and that 7 seed might be 10-3 Georgia, who's the number 5 team in the country.
True. Yeah. Which would be, I think that'd be pretty cool. I don't know.
That's what I mean, though. Is like, at what point is it no longer an upset?
Right. That's
Do you think like Miami University looks at this year and says like we can get in there
Yes.
because they've been really
they
good
could.
for the last few years.
Yeah, they were
think
really
could.
good. When I was the coach, they were really good.
You had a Heisman winner too, right?
We had a Heisman winner my first season. So that means he's on the team right now, which means,
Look out for that Heisman winner, Miami. Whew. Can't wait
Who's
for that.
the like? Is there a list of non-Power 5 to make playoff? Like, is there like a short list?
Miami
Cincinnati.
plays Notre Dame, though, so.
Oh, are you talking about that have made or to make it this year?
Yeah, like who
Oh,
are?
well,
some
there's.
teams-
I mean, the top group of 5 champion automatically gets in.
I know.
It could
I'm
be,
saying like
could be
is
Miami.
there a
who are they
short
gonna
list?
be?
Yeah,
Okay,
like who's
yeah,
the
yeah, I
short
can pull it
list?
up.
Coastal.
Most likely
No, are they going to be bad?
non-Power 5 to make playoffs. Let's see. Which group of 5 is most likely? This is from June.
Wait, is
It
Oregon,
gives Boise State the highest percentage.
Yeah, Boise State's going to be great this year.
is
and
Oregon
then
State
San
considered
Antonio,
a group?
No.
No.
Texas, San Antonio, Liberty, Memphis, App State, Tulane. Miami, Ohio's got a 3%. Toledo's got a 3%. Toledo, I love watching Toledo football.
Toledo has.
'Cause they
or
sling it.
Not anymore. He's on Baylor, which is why I'm kind of high on Baylor. But Daquan Finn, Toledo's quarterback the last 3 years, one of my favorite MAC players of all time. He dominated Ohio State for a half when they played in the shoe. He's unbelievable. I'd keep an eye out for Baylor to make some noise in the Big 12 just because he transferred there. He's an incredible quarterback.
Who's the best coach in Mike Ackley brings up a good question. Who's the best college football coach in the state? Is it Chuck Martin or Scott Satterfield? Because it's not Ryan Day.
I think both of those guys lost more games last year than Ryan Day lost in his career.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but they
well,
weren't born on third base.
I was going to say
so.
Ryan Day was born on third,
right.
so
Yeah,
it's
for
harder
sure.
to score when you're at first.
Yeah, I don't think
You
those
guys-
guys left the batter's box.
Ohio State needs to use that on Sharon Moore. No.
Sharon Moore wasn't born on third. Sharon Moore was born up like 15-0.
He was rounding third, heading for home.
Yeah, Sharon Moore was born about 1 foot from home.
Oh well. Any other party news as we get into the final 10 minutes of this show? By the way, can you imagine? So we were talking about the Olympics. Steven, I'm not going to pronounce his last name, but the pommel horse guy from the
Oh.
male Olympic team, and he's literally just this one thing. Can you imagine being that guy? You just won gold. You know, it's kind of a unique thing to be like just selected on the team, do one thing. Like they don't do that a whole lot because you kind of got to craft your team, do multiple things. And all these articles come out. And they're just basically calling him a dork, like a nerd. Like, can you imagine that you're winning gold and you like open up Wall Street Journal, USA Today, New York Times. They're like, this dork just won the gold. Like they are using nerd and dork and like they're using these words to talk about him. That's not good unless he's okay with it. But like I just couldn't imagine winning gold for my country. And I look back at like the most respected publications. They're like, this dork just won gold. Not fun.
Not fun.
Yeah.
The pommel horse also, a lot of sports make sense. Can we talk about that? A lot of sports make sense. Track. You understand where it came from. How fast can you run? Long jump, high jump. How high, like how athletic are you? Throwing, discus, javelin. How far can you throw these things? Like how strong are you? Pommel horse? Where did that come from?
Swing those legs in a circle and
Just like, hey, we're gonna get you this thing, and we're gonna see how how cool it looks. Just swing around,
it looks cool.
uneven bars. Like a lot of
I like the
Olymp-
rings.
swimming, all makes sense. Now steeplechase and track, that doesn't make any sense. We're gonna just like, hey, we're gonna run laps, and then like you're gonna dump into a pit. You're gonna jump into a pit of water.
That's a fun one because they were just like, all right, we already have people run. How can we make another event?
How can we make like
It
just
seemed like the
inconvenient-
Olympics were trying to fill segment 6 there. They're like, how can we get something else on the track? Let's just Put a riff.
I would love to know the genesis of all these things. He won bronze. Sorry. He didn't win gold. He won bronze.
Storm.
Sorry. Regardless, they were belittling a national hero. Sorry, big dummy. Mouse Cop, why? I thought we were friends.
Mouse Cop thought he was going to get off scot-free today with no Kinner.
Why do people call him a dork? Proceeds to question the validity of gymnastics. I'm just like, no. Because we also have like water polo and stuff like that. I'm just saying, like, it's funny to think about the origin of a lot of sports. Like track and field, we understand how all those started. Like, hey, we're just going to, like in the old Olympics back 2,000 years ago, they were just saying, hey, let's see how fast you can run. See how far you can throw this thing, a spear. How far can you throw this spear? Pole vaulting, even then, like it came from trying to gain a wall in castles. It came from warfare. Like, hey, you're going to jump over this wall. Back when, you were fortified cities, walled cities. Steeplechase, I don't get. Uneven bars, don't quite get. Soccer, all these things. I just would love to know, like, I'm sure there's someone that has painstakingly wrote a book about the origin of all the sports in the Olympics. I just would like to read through it. I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be a lot of speed walking. Goofy one. That's a goofy one.
Why is it in the Olympics?
Why isn't competitive eating?
That'd be cool.
Because
Colton just suggested
there would be one gold medal winner every year.
Pound for pound UFC. Everyone just sends their best fighter, regardless of weight class. And you fight for medals. USA would have won everyone for the last 10 years with John Jones.
I think it'd be fun. Sure. Like, people suggest this all the time, is like if we just did like a lottery system and like we like did a draft. Like, all right, now for the uneven bars, and we just like citizens, just random citizens. Like, all right, for the men's gymnastics team, uneven bars competitor is going to be, they pluck it out, Jacob Tissett, Cincinnati, Ohio. Guess you got to go to Paris.
I've had a long-standing take that the Olympics would be better if every event just put one more lane in swimming, one more lane in track, and just put the most average person in there. Just so that when you're watching on
just
TV,
someone from like the host country, and
right,
just like
you can see exactly how much better these people are than you. Because it's so easy to watch, swimming or what. I mean, I guess it's a little different in the Olympics, but I know when we watch football and basketball and everything, you see a guy miss an open three, and you're like, oh, I would have made that. Will Benson drops a fly ball. Oh, I would have caught that ball. I think for Olympics, it'd be really cool to put everyone out there and just see how much better these athletes are than the rest of the world, because I think we recognize that they are in the Olympics, but I still think sometimes we don't really realize by how much. And I mean, they're the best of the best. I think it'd be really cool to watch.
Walk up to the library. I think they have books. Molly says, I got a funny story about libraries. So my brother, I hope Matt's listening to this because I love telling the story about you, Matt. A couple of years ago, we were talking about Christmas presents for my dad. And for the longest time, my dad he reads a couple books a year. He really likes John Grisham books. And that was kind of the trendy thing, is every year John Grisham, he doesn't write them, Ghostwriter writes them. But regardless, John Grisham book comes out. We get my dad the John Grisham book for Christmas. Someone does. My brother suggested a couple Christmases ago, like 6-7 Christmases ago, he said, I wish there was kind of a Netflix for books. I was like, huh? And he's like, yeah, you get like a subscription and like, you can get a book and then you can return the book and like get a new book. And I was like, Matt, wait till you hear about this thing called the library. It's been around for thousands of years, and you want to know the best part? It's free. Just walk on up, get yourself a membership, and take out a book. And I just could not believe my brother suggested the library.
He thought he invented the library.
That's
incredible.
It was great. It was a great moment. But sometimes you get short-sighted. And then I brought up, I was like, yeah, Matt, that the library exists. He's like, oh, I know. I read. I know the library exists. But what if we just I don't know, just you rent a book, then you give it back when you're done. Once again, the library. Once again. So also, I don't know if you've noticed, I don't know if other communities are doing this, I imagine, but I've seen more and more communities put these little libraries. You've seen these things in the parks around neighborhoods. They'll they'll make like a little like birdhouse looking thing.
It's like the old like newspaper things.
Yeah, or leave a book, take a book.
Yeah.
And it's just an idea. My church across the street, the church across the street from my house has one for like non-perishable foods too, canned foods and stuff like that. I thought of this idea that I think would be so much fun. And what if I built one, put one in my yard, and it's just craft beer. Like,
Take one, leave one, take one?
Leave one, take one. You can come in there, check it out. Everyone, and I just have random people walking up to my little thing and just like, here's an IPA, and then I'll put one back, and then I'll go grab and do this. I see people that live on golf courses do that. They'll like say like it's sort of like on a turn. If you live on a golf course, you just have like a mini fridge like on your thing. And it's just like, hey, you can, take beer if you need some beer when you're out on the course, but make sure to stock it when it's done, or leave some money so we can stock it and stuff like that. It's a gentleman's game.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That does rock.
Mouse is much smarter than fellow jock Steven Stifler. I don't get that. Park Avenue is not in Dora. It's right on the edge.
We can make it, Dora.
Trust me, I walk away.
I was gonna say.
My dogs. When I walk my dogs, it's normally accompanying
230 pounds of dog and chaperone in the earbuds.
That's right. That's what I texted you guys last night. Okay, Elliot was giving us updates from his vacation, and the chat was popping for a little bit of time.
It was a good chat night.
It was a good chat night. The Hamilton Library is the homeless people mecca. Oh, come on.
You didn't have to read it out loud.
I'm just reading the chat. Have I told this? I'm going to tell this story. I don't know if I've told this story on air. But listen, no one's pro Hamilton more than this guy. So I can say this. Like, I get to say the Hamiltucky stuff. I get to do all this because I'm from Hamilton. I'm pro Hamilton. I love this city. But underneath the parking garage, about 2 blocks away from here, there's a somewhat sizable homeless population, and you see some characters. Oh, man. One day, I come driving home. I turn right out of here, and I see this girl. She's being held up by what are they called? Not stilts, but like when you break your leg, crutches.
Oh,
I was looking for crutches. She's being held up for crutches. She's bending over, and there's this guy behind him. He's shirtless, tattooed head to toe, and he is grabbed her hips. She's on crutches. They're both wearing clothes. He's not wearing a shirt. They're both wearing clothes. He's grabbing her hips. And he's humping her. He's straight up humping her. And I'm like driving, and I feel like Clint Eastwood from that scene in Gran Torino where I'm just like mean mugging him as I'm like driving slowly by. And he starts mouthing off to me as he's doing this, like he's humping this girl. And he's doing it like he's like, I'm the crazy one. When it's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. He's literally like, what are you looking at? I'm like, I'm looking at you. I'm looking at the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. The craziest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And like I said, sometimes you see scenes in the city and you're like, maybe we haven't come as far as I think. Maybe we haven't come as far as I thought, but this city is fantastic. So that's the one story I'll tell you about this city.
What an end to a Thursday show.
It is great. It was great. It was wild. And by the way, it was like the girl, like she was a part of it too. Like it wasn't like it was anything like that, but that's
Jesus Fetters.
It wasn't like there was like an assault going on or anything like that. It was requited. It was reciprocated. But it was just the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, have fun. Kidder will be back tomorrow. I'm sure he'll have fun stories like that. As I always feel like I just tell stories for the
Probably be drunk too.
The Dodgers did not win yesterday, which was sad.
How'd you play?
Second game all year, I haven't had a hit.
Oh no.
I know my friends came first.
A lot of pressure. Not made for the bright lights. Casey wants to be back in Chattanooga.
I had 3 at-bats. I saw 3 pitches. I was maybe a little over-eager. First pitch, I hit one in the gap. Center fielder runs it down. I hit it hard. My friend gets on the megaphone and goes, hit the weight room.
That's
and
good.
I was like,
It's a classic.
And then the other 2 times, I tried to beat out an infield single. And then just hit a 2-hopper to the second baseman. What's funny is the field umpire was my college roommate. That was weird.
Oh.
That was wild. Just showed up, and I was like, is that Michael? Alexander? Hey, how you doing? And then so I thought I beat out this infield single, And I yelled, like, after he called me, I was like, "Oh, Michael, we roomed together," as I roomed, as if he owed me one. As if he
couldn't have thrown you a bone?
I can almost promise that I owe him one. All right, see you guys. I'll see you guys next time I'm on the show, which is seemingly almost every day. But Kidder will be back tomorrow. See you guys.